Well, I'm with Ambassador Chung,
Yeah.
who has been a negotiator
Yeah.
for many decades on climate change.
This is
He's
very
also
true.
worked with prime ministers of his country, Korea, and with Ban Ki-moon
Yeah,
in
yeah.
his foundation. We just had a panel on leadership in net zero. Ambassador, you mentioned very relevant topics about net zero, not only in production,
Yeah.
but in consumption. I think that's a key concept that people will appreciate to know your views on that.
Yeah. Because the global discussion about net zero has been too much focused on production side. They don't even realize it. Not many people even realize that some problem about just focusing on production, because the issue of sustainable consumption has never been put on the table in the UN negotiations. And this is framing it a little bit unfavorably about developing country, exporting to developed country, and they're responsible for the export because they are earning foreign currency by export. But by doing that, they need emission, but they are responsible for the export. While the consumers in the developed world, they are not aware about their responsibility for their consumption. So this is one of the serious issue I believe we should rectify, and also Club Madrid can send out as a senior group and as a structural strategy to reframe the global climate talk.
I think that that point is key because it shows how concepts and paradigms of how we see things affect negotiations or the measures we adopt. And another point that was made on the panel that I think it's on the spot is that there is no one solution for all countries. They are on different stages, and some countries produce more, export fossil fuels. Other are consumers of fossil fuels for their productions. Others are in a level of development. Others are in that process, and that makes this whole transition different. So we have to be sensitive and empathic on those different pathways of adaptation to the new challenges that climate change presents to us.
That's right. And also, I believe another issue in the context of the consumption, the role of the consumer. Actually, we often forget NDC, nationally determined contribution, is a responsibility and job of the government, right? But what about the business and what about the people? So I'm talking about PDC, personally determined contribution. We, all of us, has to be aware that we should make a personal contribution as well. We cannot just blaming government, blaming business will not solve the problem. We have been doing that. We have been blaming government. We have been blaming the business for last 3 decades, but nothing changed. Then what should we do? We should come up with an idea that we individuals, all of us, we should realize that I have to make a contribution. I call it personally determined contribution, PDC. Also business, for example, corporate. Corporate has to make a contribution, CDC. That is all this kind of concept. So leadership does not mean only government leadership, but also civil society leadership by participating, not just blaming and accusing. I want to change the frame of our discourse, global climate talk, from top down to bottom up, from the consumption and the consumers and the voluntary participation, not just a pull by the government, but push from the bottom. But of course, it needs a lot of social change, behavioral change, awareness change. So I am proposing PDC and the Me First campaign, not just the environmental campaign, blaming government and business, but I should be the first who pay for net reduction, net zero and energy transition. So this kind of psychological change, all of this, the leadership has to come from bottom as well, not only from the top.
It's an approach that brings empowerment
That's right.
to the people, more agency and participation on that. I think that links relevantly with that framework of share but differentiated responsibilities.
That's right.
Because the carbon footprint of some citizens, for example, in many developed worlds, is very high carbon footprint,
That's right.
while the carbon footprint of other citizens in more not developed countries is smaller.
Yeah.
But we are sharing the same planet, and we're going
Yeah.
to have those impacts, and those impacts are going to be
I know.
harder
Yeah,
for the
I know.
ones the most vulnerable. So that how we can mix that agency, that
That's right.
responsibility from individuals, and balance it, because I
That
think that
is why I'm proposing differentiated price for different quality of the product. Carbon-free product or not carbon-free product has to be separated. They should have a different price. So we should have not one price. This is one way of starting how to differentiate and the voluntary participation possible. Because at the moment, we have only one fixed price around the world, except some developed country. So we have to bringing in new market mechanism competing for the quality, not just for cheapest quantity price. So this can be only possible when we differentiate the price and offer different price to the different consumers. Because I'm confident about why there are increasing number of consumers are very much concerned about climate change. So they are willing to pay for it. Now a lot of big change, tide is changing. A lot of people are willing, even in Korea, when I'm talking this kind of idea, so many people around me say that, oh, I'm willing to pay for it. But at the moment, there's no way I can pay for it. So we need this kind of a system, different price where voluntary participation can be possible from the bottom. But we don't have that system. So I'm proposing this differentiate. I call it green premium, whatever the name, or climate premium, whatever. But there are certain people who are willing to pay for it. So let them pay for it first in any country. In the United States or wherever, in Korea, 48% will be willing to pay for it. But we don't have the system to accommodate their willingness to pay. So this is something. Also, the business can look at it as a new opportunity for making money. Because these people are willing to pay for it. So it's not a burden for them. So Coca-Cola, I mentioned of Coca-Cola. Yes, Coca-Cola is ready to pay a higher price for renewable energy because it is a very strong marketing opportunity for them. So it is a business opportunity making economic sense, not just a burden or a moral lecture. So it is a business opportunity for them. So I'm confident that we can drive this kind of system change.
well, those are the kinds of discussions we have at the Madrid Club, and particularly in the Leadership for Net Zero.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ambassador, and a pleasure to share those with the people that are watching.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.